Yeah. Is that loud enough?
We all go to that growing audience.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm sorry, I didn't realise we were live. We are live. This is the results night for the BETSU Student Elections 2022. Welcome, everybody in the room. I also gather there'll be lots of people watching online, live via YouTube as well. So welcome to everybody who's watching online. I think I can see you through there. Thank you, or you can see me more like. So welcome to the results night. We had a first last year by holding it online only. We've got a first this year by holding it online and in person. So we hope this will mean that more people can be with us tonight, albeit not here in the room. And yeah, without further ado, I think we should crack on with the evening. I'm going to talk you through the roles that we have. I'm going to talk you through the election. And it's the election first. And then we're going to get to the results. So there's a bit of suspense just to come yet. When we get to the results, do you know that, you know, I'm going to be reading out the results. It's quite dryly. I'm going to try and make them fun. But of course, they will be exciting to the candidates themselves and all of the student voters who come out to make their voices heard about the candidates they'd like to see in post this year. So let me talk about the roles that we have. The student elections, the executive roles, there are 4 positions. We changed the roles for the first time last year. I'm just going to check to see if the slides are changing. The slides are not changing currently. Here we go. No, that isn't what we want to be on. We want to be on that one. There we go. Thank you. Magic, eh? Magic. Thank you. So we have 4 roles, 2 co-presidents and 2 co-vice presidents for campus experience and equality. We changed these roles last year to try and have better gender equality within the team. And so we have a co-president role for a self-identifying man or person of non-binary gender identification, and a co-president self-identifying woman. And we have the same for the co-vice presidents as well. These roles are the most senior student representatives in the student community at the university. The co-presidents both operate as student governors on the university's board of governors as well. These roles are full-time, they're paid, they are paid full-time to be student representatives of the whole University of Bedfordshire community in the UK. That's for home students, international students as well. So they represent everybody, which is why the election season is so important. They also have a lot of impact. The university at the moment is doing an awful lot of work to try and address some of its kind of major strategic concerns that affect students every day. From the black awarding gap to better mental health support for students, to making sure students can get through their studies with the right study support. These are all the sorts of things that your executive officers are working on day in, day out. It can often be hard for students because students usually spend a lot of time in their course or around their course. So of course, you know, you have course reps, you might know your school rep, you have other representatives who work for you. Well, these roles work above all of those roles. They're there every day to represent your interests, which is why it's really important to engage as many students as possible in the vote. So when we go through the elections, we're going to go through each position one by one. We're going to start with the co-vice president identifying as male or non-binary, then co-vice president identifying as woman, and then go to the 2 co-presidents after that. So the elections this year. Last year we introduced a campus-based voting model. It is an alternative vote in each campus, so students vote at their campus level. The way we work it though is that each campus has a number of points, and I'll explain these later. What it means is that we're able to level up the voting environment for students here so that every student has a good chance of having influence within their students' union. We had 14 candidates across the 4 roles this year. We had 1 uncontested post, but we had contested posts for the other elections. So there's some quite exciting runoffs to come. So it will be suspenseful as time gets on this evening. We also introduced a student jury this evening in place of our elections committee that we've run in previous years. The student jury is the first defence for a fair election. They receive complaints from students. We consult the student jury on the rules and processes that we have. And we elect these students to oversee and scrutinise how the election is going, so that students have a role in defining a fair and transparent process for their peers. It's not an easy job. I want to give a big shout out to those volunteers who took part in the student jury this year. A very, very big thank you. It's not an easy role. Let's have a round of applause for the student jury. Individually, so thank you Kathleen Anita, Kira Norris, Marsha Dice, Marina Marilla, Suman Naz, Daniela Ratapchik, Paul Iwokli, Bakura Igeon, Isoima Aneli. My apologies for any mispronunciations. Feel free to call me McCarmack for the rest of the night as maybe. That said, I realise that I haven't introduced myself. My name is Mark McCormack. I'm a member of staff here at the Students' Union. I'm the BEDS SU CEO, and I've been rolled in tonight to present the results to you on behalf of the student jury and the Deputy Returning Officer. So thanks for having me. My role as a member of staff is to work very closely with the 4 executive officers, as well as the rest of the staff team. We work alongside each other, but I also defer to the executive officers in the course of my duties. And that's essentially how the rest of the staff team work as well. So again, it pushes and promotes just how important these roles are to the Students' Union being a student-led space for students and a representative body. We had a handful of complaints this year. Thank you to Student Jury for dealing with them promptly and quickly. It's always difficult. I also want to say a big thank you to the Deputy Returning Officer, one of our staff members, Lisa Rorik. Thank you, Lisa. Just like the student jury, overseeing complaints and issues that students raise during the election isn't easy. It's very hard to weigh things up in a fair manner, especially when you know there's lots of emotions involved as well. But we really hope that people have been satisfied with how their complaints have been concerned, or at least have felt that they've been dealt with fairly. I know it can be hard for some candidates who can feel that they haven't got the outcome they desired. But what we can have faith in is that there is a fair and transparent process for complaints to be dealt with. And that's the obligation we have as a students' union to the wider student body when we're running an election, especially when we know how seriously our candidates take it. And I have to say a massive thank you to all of our candidates. 14 candidates, it's not an easy job. This isn't exactly a quiet time of year to be a student. There's lots going on. And lots of our candidates also have other things going on. They might commute. They might have responsibilities at home and commitments. They might have work responsibilities too. They might have had assignments due earlier this week just as campaigning got going. I'm seeing some nods in the room. And it's very, very hard. And these students are not only putting themselves out there, displaying their values, their aims and ambitions for their peers to the public. But they also have to balance campaigning and getting students' attention alongside being a student and all the rest that students deal with and cope with whilst they're studying. So a really big shout out to all the candidates. Can we have a round of applause for every single one? Now, we don't just have candidates taking part, we also have voters taking part. And one of the things that we did this year to try and promote student voting is we offered a prize draw. So we do actually give out the prize draw. It isn't just a ploy to get you to vote. We do actually give cash to students to promote you voting. Now, of course, I'm sure students take lots of joy in making their voice heard in the Students' Union. But lots of students aren't aware of the full work of the Students' Union, and lots of students aren't aware of what our executive officers do, despite how hard we try to communicate with them, which is why we try and incentivise students participating And it's also worth saying that democracy is important. It's important to unions led by students. So we had a prize draw. We offered a £250 prize. So a massive congratulations, to Chanika Amara. Congratulations. £250 on its way to you. We also had a handful of £100 prizes. Like I say, we do pay these prizes, and these are the lucky students at each campus who have won £100 for taking part in the vote. Commiserations to the wider student body, but at least know you contributed to a healthy democracy and made your voice heard instead. So I think you can see on the screen, because the screen is bigger than me on Zoom. So well done to all the students who have won dough, cold hard dough, for whatever purposes you want. Okay. To the election. We had 1,423 votes cast. That was 9% of student turnout. That is a fall from our previous year. We had a record turnout last year. So we haven't had as many students come out to vote this year, which, whilst is disappointing, a whopping nearly 1,500 students did commit their votes. That's a lot of students expressing their voice and who they want to lead the union. And also, we do know that it's a difficult time for students at the moment. Students are both on campus and off campus. Students are still, like staff and the wider public, returning from a horrific pandemic with lots of things to balance. And a lot of people are struggling to find time for a lot of things. So I say well done to the students who did come out and vote. And commiserations to those who haven't, with hope you can engage in the future and make your voice heard elsewhere. Turnout by campus. One of the reasons we introduced the campus votes, the campus system in terms of vote counting, is to try and promote participation from the wider campuses. We used to get something like 1–2% non-Luton and non-Bedford campuses. It was pretty bad. As you can see, we've got real gains in some of the other campuses. Some of our student cohorts at these campuses are really hard to reach. They can work on single days, and they can study on campuses quite far away from the main campuses where they don't have a student union bar. So a big shout out to the students from all campuses who engaged and took an interest in these elections. And well done to the candidates for getting round, because I know quite a few candidates went and visited campuses. And again, one of the reasons for bringing in the campus votes is to incentivize candidates to go to campuses and make sure students know who they are. Because it's really important that students at London Bridge, students at Bedford, students at Milton Keynes, students at Arthur Mellows College, at Emmerdale, at Puttridgebury, feel as much that the student union is there as the students from Luton and any other campus. Okay. I think we're now going to talk about how the votes are counted. So our votes are counted by campus first. We have two stages of voting. First of all, we go through each campus and we count up the votes for each role for each campus. The number of votes that you get at campus then contributes to the amount of campus points you get. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the US college system of voting, but this is very, very similar. The campus vote is coordinated by alternative vote, and you might have noticed this when you're voting, which means that students are asked to indicate a preference when they're voting. This is seen as to be more democratic, so that if you don't get your first preference candidate, you might get your second or your third preference. Essentially, your vote is recycled if someone you vote for doesn't get enough votes in the first or second rounds of voting and is eliminated. It means that you still have a stake in the election as a voter, even if your first preference doesn't get the majority that other candidates get. So each campus election is worth campus points, and each campus has a different number of points. That number broadly relates to the size of the student body at that campus. However, we do weight them positively, which means that the smaller campuses are upvoted at the expense of the larger campuses. Now, we do this to make sure that you can't win the whole election outright with just one campus. For those at Luton, what that means is even though almost half the students at the university study at Luton, I think over half, It means that if you win the Luton vote, and only the Luton vote, you don't win the election. You have to show that you've engaged other campuses and you've had other students from other campuses to vote for you too. We do this to try and level up, make it fair, and make sure that the Students' Union is representative of all of its diverse student body across all of its campuses. As you can see here, points per campus, we have 15 for the Luton. There are 40 up for grabs, 7 campus points at Bedford, 5 at Birmingham LSC, 6 at LSC London Bridge, 3 at Milton Keynes, 2 at Aylesbury, and then we group together our specialist sites and give them 2 campus points. Specialist sites include Patridge Ferry, the Emerald Dale Study Centre, as well as the Arthur Mellows College Study Centre too. The specialist sites refer to the study centres that aren't main campuses. And I'm saying that because I know lots of students don't understand the difference between different campuses. What students watching will know is that depending on your campus, you will get different facilities and services. Each campus isn't the same, and it's something the executive officers work very hard to try and represent students on when they're in office. Okay, at the end of each campus count, we will tally up the campus points. So there are votes, and then depending on the number of votes you get, you will then get points. Sound confusing? Don't be. I'll talk you through an example before we get on with the vote. Okay, it's worthwhile saying that if you win a campus, you don't win. You win when you get a majority of campus points. So across all of these campuses, if a candidate gets 5 points in Luton, 5 points in Bedford, 5 points in Birmingham, and 5 points in London, they're probably going to win because they've got 20 points. And that means they've got over half the points available, or half points available, I should say. So that's how you win the election. You get more points than the other candidates. Okay. Shall we talk through an example? Yeah. Okay, here's an example. This is what you're going to be seeing as we talk through the election. I'll put my notes down. I don't have a pointer, I'm afraid. Okay, so I'm going off screen to those who are on Zoom, but don't panic, you can hear my voice. So this is the picture you're going to see. Those on Zoom also can't see my gesturing, so maybe we need sound effects. What you see over here is in blue, bright blue, is how many points are available for the campus. So at the example campus, there are this many points available. What we will tell you here is how many votes were valid. Valid votes mean somebody who's made a vote that has a preference for somebody. So what we say though is how many votes are needed to gain a campus point. That's the threshold. The way you get a campus point is you get enough votes to meet a threshold sorry, I'll say that again. The way the campus points work is there are a set number of points for a campus, and then we divide the number of points by the number of votes we get. And so there is a threshold that you need to meet to get a campus point. You have to exceed the threshold to get a point. So if you've got 1.5 points, that's not nearly 2 points, that's one point. You need to reach the threshold to get the points. In this example, the threshold is 20 votes. As you can see down here, these are the points available. And this tally is shown in votes. So what you can see here is candidate A looks to have about 15 votes. They don't have enough votes to be able to get a campus point. However, candidate B seems to have over 40 votes because they've gone over the line for 2 campus points, which essentially means that they've exceeded the threshold for 2 campus points. Now, in this election, you can see that 2 candidates, candidate B and candidate C, have exceeded a threshold for at least 1 campus point. And so in this round of voting, what we see here is that candidate B and C have 3 points between them. Now, you can see that here in this little blue box in the bottom left corner. That maintains the current tally of campus points per round. So if you're losing track as the votes go up, keep your eye on the bottom left box, and that tells you the tally. Now, what you see, if you add up these campus points and they don't make 5, that means we need to start eliminating candidates because it's an alternative vote. What we don't do is call it a day at the first offer. We continue with recycling the votes and transferring votes until all the campus points are taken. I think we now go to a slide that shows them. Do we see next stage? No, okay, just checking. So what will happen after this, and it'll become very clear when we're going through the results, is we will eliminate this candidate here, Ron. Now you will see Ron written in every election. Ron is a fictional candidate called Reopen Nominations. We include Ron as a candidate in every election so that students have the option to say, I don't want anyone, I prefer we reopen nominations and restarted the election. What you see here is Ron has the lowest number of votes, so what would happen is Ron would be eliminated, and we would take Ron's votes away and redistribute the second preference votes. And that goes back to what I said earlier, and if you voted, you'll remember having indicated a preference. If you put Ron as a preference number 1, but then you put candidate D as number 2, in the next round, Ron's vote will go over to candidate D. And we continue doing that until all of the 5 campus points have been allocated. Now, I hope that's been relatively clear, and hopefully you'll get it on the way if it hasn't. So, as we go through elections, the results, as we do each round of voting, we'll also give you a summary of how many campus points have been allocated so far. So, for example, if we count the votes for Luton, we're counting 15 campus points. But we still have Bedford to go, we still have London Bridge, we still have Milton Keynes, we still have the other campuses to count. And so those are unassigned. So as we go through the election, what you'll be able to see is slowly but surely, the pie chart will be filled with points being taken. And what you'll see here is the candidates will be shown, so it says A, B, C, and D here. The pie chart shows the proportion of campus points that each candidate has won. And we'll show this at the end of each campus count for the position, so that you can keep up to date with how things are going and the tally as we go along. Okay. I think we might be ready for our first election. Well done. Well, so I've got votes here. I've got results here. I actually have results. We're first going to count the co-vice president for campus experience and equality for a self-identifying man or non-binary individual. We had quite a few candidates in this position. We had 6 candidates, and of course, Ron, Reopen Nominations, is one of those candidates. So we had Amara, Jugabai Jagadishbai, sorry, I'm very, very sorry. Jugabai Jagadishbai Patel, Vidam Chandran, Ryan Murphy, Syed Shahid Ali, and Reopen Nominations. I really apologise for the mispronunciations. There's one thing doing it in the office, and it's another thing doing it on stage. I truly apologise. Okay, so we had our 6 candidates. We're going to go through campuses, each campus at a time, and we're going to count up the votes. Now, for this role, we're going to start in Luton. Okay, so we're in Luton. Where? Oh, some Luton fans. We have the first round of voting. There were 657 valid votes. You see in the first round of voting, Mitchell received 5 points. Ryan received 3, Amara 2, Syed 1, and Jugabai 1 as well. Unfortunately, Reopen Nominations didn't receive any votes. Oh, well done, Rob. And so, what's going to happen here is because we haven't met the, not everybody's met the threshold. Ron did not meet the threshold for any campus points, didn't get any points. And as you see in the corner there, you're showing the campus points one, but there are still some points available. So there are 15 points, and we can see that 4, 9, 10, 11, 12 campus points have been won so far. There are 3 points available. So we go through to the next round of voting. So in the second round of voting, we eliminated Ron, and we also eliminated Jigabai too, because Jigabai had the lowest number of votes. So we eliminated his votes as well across other candidates. As you can see, we had a change. Midhan received another campus point because he met the threshold for an additional point. Amara also received another campus point for meeting the threshold for their third campus point as well. However, we still had 1 campus point available, and so we had to eliminate another candidate. The candidate with the lowest votes was Syed, and so we eliminated Syed's votes, and that meant that Ryan received an additional campus point. As you can see here on the bar chart, Ryan received an additional point and exceeded the threshold. So at the end of voting, what we see here is that at the Luton campus, Midhan starts in the lead with 6 campus points, well done Midhan, followed by Ryan, then Amara, and then we have 1 campus point each for Jigabai and Syed. Well done all candidates for getting your votes at Luton. It's a big campus. Let's move on to the next campus, shall we? And we're moving to Birmingham. And as you can see, the first round of votes at Birmingham is shown in front of you here. We had 37 votes valid votes at Birmingham. And the threshold for a campus point was 7.4 votes. So you need to get over 7 votes to get a single campus point. As you can see in the first round of voting, Ryan and Midhan both got a campus point. Well done, you guys. But because we still had more points available, we reallocated votes from those candidates who had the lowest number of votes. So we eliminated Ron and Syed, which eliminated 3 votes. In the second round of voting, we see that no candidate received enough votes transferred to take them to another campus point. So we still see that Midhan and Ryan only have, well, they have 1 campus point each, no additional ones were allocated. So we had to eliminate again in a third stage of voting. In the third stage of voting, we eliminated Amara and Jigabai as both on equal number of votes, and they were reallocated across Midhan and Ryan. Midhan and Ryan received a campus point each, having both met the threshold above 2 campus points. And as you can see, Ryan looks to have more votes, but again, Ryan didn't meet the threshold for a third campus point, and you only get the vote if you meet the threshold. Now, as part of this system, when we end up with 2 candidates, we need to be able to choose between one of those candidates if there is campus points available. And so, of course, we just follow what we've done before, and we eliminate the candidate with the lowest votes. So in the final round, Midhan's votes are reallocated and passed over to Ryan. Now, you will notice here that no one loses a campus point. You might gain votes, but you don't transfer campus points. Even if you get a campus point, even if you're eliminated, you don't lose your campus point. That can't be taken away from you. And that's how the voting system works. So well done for Ryan for winning the Birmingham campus with three campus points. And well done Midhan for getting 2 campus points. Well, hey. We see that things are hotting up. I mean, there's still half of the campus points to go, so a long way to go. We have Midhan in the lead on 8, followed closely by Ryan. They're extending a bit of a gap so far, with Amara on 3, and then Jigabai and Syed on 1, and poor Ron still holding out for a vote. Oh. Well, next we go to the satellite sites, where we didn't have so many votes. The satellite sites we received were Patridge-Bury, Emerald Dale, and Arthur Meadows College. We had 2 votes, but 2 campus points were available. So it's a great campus to get if you can get students to vote for you there. The 2 votes were split equally across Midhan and Ryan. Well done for getting there. And of course, the threshold for a campus point was 1 vote. So well done, you each get a campus point from these specialist sites. So that adds another campus point to the tallies of Midland and Ryan. So I think we end up with 9 for Midland now, and 8 for Ryan. So they're really extending their lead. Let's see, we've still got lots to go. Still lots to go. And the next campus up is Milton Keynes. Hey! 28 votes were counted at Milton Keynes, and the threshold for the points here was 9.33 votes. You had to exceed 9 votes to get a campus point. As you'll see in the first round, Midland and Ryan both got a campus point, but there was still another campus point available, and so we sought to reallocate. Now, because none of the other candidates had sufficient votes to be able to attain another campus point, so if you'd have added all of them together, it wouldn't have got another campus point. All of those candidates are eliminated in the following round, and the votes then, the second, third, fourth preferences redistributed across Midland and Ryan. But as you can see, they still don't reach the threshold to get that second campus point, because the votes were shared almost equally by that point. In that case, we eliminated the candidate with the lowest number of votes, and at this stage, that was Midland. And so we saw Ryan gain the additional campus points. So Midland gets 1 and Ryan gets 2 out of the 3 points available at Milton Keynes, which I think makes things a bit exciting on the tally, because we have seen Midland and Ryan extending the lead, but I think they're pretty close now. Okay. So what are we on? 25. Okay, still 15 campus points to go. That's a lot of campus points. Still lots to go. Next up, we're at Aylesbury. Big shout out to the Aylesbury students. Well, they had a really good turnout for their campus. Those students haven't historically engaged with PLC, and actually this is a really big change for them, so well done. Thanks for taking part. Of their 20 votes, the threshold for a point was 10 votes, and as you can see, Midland was the only candidate to reach that threshold in the first round of voting. There were 2 campus points available. Now, much like the last campus we looked at, Milton Keynes, when we looked at lots of the other candidates, obviously a few candidates didn't get any votes, we had to start eliminating quite a few candidates at the same time. So in the second round of voting, we eliminated Ron, Syed, Jagabai, and Amara, and redistributed votes across the 2 candidates. As you can see, neither Ryan or Midland achieved enough to reach the next threshold. So Ryan was aiming for 1 campus point, and Midland was aiming for 2. Neither of them reached the threshold, and so we had to eliminate in the final stage again. And in this case, we eliminated Ryan. Midland gets his own back, and he takes 2 campus points, both of them from Aylesbury, which I think puts Midland back in the lead in the tally. But it's still close, and there are still points available. The next campus we go to is London Bridge. Here we have 30 votes, and the threshold for getting a point was 5 votes. And in the first round, we saw 4 campus points split equally between Midland and Ryan, as you can see here. Clearly taking up the lead in the election here. There was still another point available, so there are 6 points available at London Bridge. They've got quite a lot of students. So we had to start eliminating and going to second rounds again. So we moved to the second round where we eliminated 3 candidates, Ron, Syed, and Jagabai. That provided an additional vote for Amara, and Amara meets the threshold for a point, gets a campus point from London Bridge. Well done, Amara. However, there is still a single campus point available, and so we had to eliminate the candidate with the lowest votes. We then eliminated votes from Amara and redistributed, and we saw Ryan be the only candidate to receive additional votes and reach the threshold for a 3rd campus point. So at the London Bridge, we saw Ryan get 3 campus points, Midland 2, and Amara 1. Which again, spices things up on the tally, I think. So we have 1 campus to go, So we've got Bedford in the moment, but let's have a look at the tally. So Midland's in the lead with 14 campus points, Ryan on 13. It really is a two-horse race. So commiserations to Amara, Jagabai, Syed, and Ron, but mostly Syed, Jagabai, and Amara. Let's have a big round of applause for all of them. So it all goes into the final round. Without further ado, let's go to Bedford, where there were 6-7 points available. As you can see in the first round of voting, Ryan takes a fairly solid lead in the voting. Ryan achieved 57 votes in the first round and was therefore allocated 4 campus points and on his way to 5. But Midland still got allocated a campus points, and Amara is actually still in the race, in Bedford at least, very close to getting a point. However, there were still campus points to allocate, and so we redistributed those candidates with the lowest number of votes. And so we redistributed votes from Ron, Syed, Jagabai, which added votes to other candidates. As you can see, no one received sufficient extra votes to reach the threshold for additional campus points. And so we had to reallocate again. So we eliminated Amara in the third stage of voting to add an extra, to redistribute Amara's votes. What we then saw is Ryan exceeded the threshold for a 5th campus point and took 5 points from that. Now there was still 1 campus point available, so we had to eliminate the candidate with the lowest number of votes. That was Midland. They were reallocated. And so Bedford finishes with Ryan receiving 6 campus points, Midland receiving 1, which means that Ryan ends up with the bulk of the votes and pips Midland at the votes and is duly elected as the vice president, co-vice president. So we have our first winner. Well done, Ryan, and commiserations to all the candidates, particularly Midland. Really great race. Really good shout. Clearly campaigned really hard and pushed Ryan to the brink. Well done, Ryan. Pushing on to the end there, the 80% history. So, one exec officer down for the 22-23 year and 3 more to go. So we next go to the co-vice president for campus experience and equality for a self-identifying woman. We had 2 candidates in this role for this position. Which were, I'm waiting for the next slide. I'll take a drink. Wait, okay. You'll notice that we are powering on through with results, and that's because there's a lot of votes to get through, a lot of campuses, a lot of positions. So we do want to keep it going. And we know that everyone wants to hear the results and celebrate or commiserate afterwards. So the candidates in this election were Tabitha Achao. Tabitha's going to get me next. Great. And reopened nominations as a candidate in this election as well. Okay, so for the first vote, let's see which campus we go to first. So we went to London Bridge first. There were 6 points available. Ron got some points, but Tabitha got 4 campus points in the first round of voting. There were 6 points available, so an additional point is available. As you can see, Ron is the lowest scoring candidate, has the least number of votes. So Ron's votes are reallocated. Tabitha achieves that 5th campus point at London Bridge. So a resounding victory for Tabitha at London Bridge over Ron. Well done, Tabitha. You've got 5 campus points to get the ball rolling. And so we can see here, Tabitha's got the ball rolling, points to the bridge. But Ron's trying to get in there. Stick your Ron. Okay, Aylesbury. We end up in Aylesbury. And again, it's a resounding victory for Tabitha. Students are clearly wanting to see you in office at Aylesbury. You achieved sufficient votes to get at least one campus point, including two. Ron didn't achieve any campus points. There were 2 points available, so again we had to redistribute to the second round, and so we eliminated Ron. And lo and behold, Tabitha meets the threshold to get both 2 campus points from Aylesbury. Well done, Tabitha. Okay. As you can see, it's a lot less complicated. There's a few people standing. But well done all the same to Tabitha. You've got to get students to vote for you. It's not as easy as anyone thinks. There was a time I stood in an election and I lost. Yeah, that's right. Hence I now work as a member of staff for students. Okay, Bedford, the Bedford campus. Here we are. The first round of voting, so we had 7 points available. Tabitha had enough votes to reach over 6 points, but not quite 7. Ron did get some votes, but not enough to win a campus point. Of course, being the lowest scoring candidate, Ron's votes are redistributed to the other candidates, which is Tabitha. And so Tabitha reaches the 7-point threshold and takes all the points from Bedford as well. So things going quite swimmingly for Bedford, for Tabitha so far, looking promising, but there's still a lot of points available. And students will choose who they want, and you just never know. You just never know. And Ron is still in there, as is at least on the scoreboard. Where are we going to next? You can see that Tabitha's in the lead. We're going over to Birmingham. Thanks for making your voice heard, Birmingham students. We had 31 valid votes at Birmingham, and you see that Tabitha took the lion's share. Ron nearly meets the threshold for 1 campus point, but not quite. Tabitha actually exceeds 4 and gets 4 points. So even though Ron is really close, as the lowest scoring candidate, we redistribute Ron's votes to Tabitha, and she reaches the 5 points available. So another steamrolling election for Tabitha over at Birmingham this time. So we're halfway through, and I think there's a pretty solid lead opening up here. One might say it would be very, very hard for Ron to overturn this. But we're going to go through every campus and not get ahead of ourselves. To the specialist sites, campus points available are 2. And as you can see, straight out of the back, both votes go to Tabitha, which means 2 points, which takes Tabitha to 21 campus points. Now, we are going to go through all of the campuses, but we are at that stage where we can say congratulations to Tabitha. You are due. I thought about not announcing it till the end, but I mean, it's fairly clear. But we are going to go through every campus because every vote counts. So thanks to Christina, who's one of the SU staff members who's flipping through the slides for us. Thank you. So we're at Milton Keynes next. There were 3 points available, 20 votes. Tabitha gets 2 campus points. Ron nearly gets 1 again. He's trying to get 1 on the scoreboard, but no, as the lowest scoring candidate, is eliminated in a second stage, and of course that brings Tabitha up to the whole 3 points. She takes 4 points from Milton Keynes as well. See how it's going, 24 now, but thanks. And then to Luton, where there is a whopping 15 points available. It's a big campus, lots of students. And we see that a whopping 12 campus points are achieved by Tabitha in that first round. Ron gets a few more consolation points. Well done, Ron. Shows that democracy is alive. That students are thinking, I don't know, I want to reopen nominations. It's a positive thing. So we see that 2 campus points are allocated to Ron, but it's the lowest scoring candidate. His votes are reallocated, or their votes reallocated. And we see at the end of that campus election, Luton, Tabitha has 13, and reopen nominations has 2. And I think that's it. We have final tally of 37. For the 22-23 executive team at SSU. Congratulations, Tabitha. Okay. So next up we have the co-president, self-identifying man of non-binary individual. We had 4 candidates in this position. It was a contested election. We had Dylan Cox, Harshit Patel, Quadri Yusuf, and of course, reopened nominations as a candidate in this election, otherwise abbreviated to Ron. Okay, so in the first round of voting, we're going to go to London Bridge and count the campus points there. There were 39 votes. The threshold for a single campus point was 6.5 votes. As you can see, Quadri gets 14 in the first round and is allocated 2 campus points. Dylan gets 13 votes in the first round, and Harshit gets 12 votes in the first round. So 3 candidates separated by three votes over at London Bridge in the first round of voting. Let me see if those 6 campus points available. 5 points are taken up, 2 with Dylan, 2 with Quadri, and 1 with Harshit. Of course, we still have a campus point available, so we must redistribute. We must eliminate a candidate. Ron did not get any votes at all at London Bridge, and so we had to eliminate the lowest scoring candidate in that round, which was Harshit. We eliminated Harshit in the second round of voting and redistributed those votes across both candidates. We saw 4 votes go to Quadri and 1 to Dylan. We saw Quadri meet the threshold for a 3rd campus point. So at London Bridge, those 6 campus points ended up being distributed as 3 for Quadri, 2 for Dylan, and 1 for Harshit. Congratulations for a hard-fought election for 6 points at London Bridge. As you can see, it's early days, very early days. Quadri gets an early lead. But lots to play for. The next campus we're going to is Bedford, and in the first round of voting, we saw it close, relatively close yet again on the campus points. The threshold for campus points was 14, and we saw in the first round, Dylan achieved 3 campus points straight off the bat, Quadri achieved 2, and Harshit achieved 1. As you can see, Harshit is not far off getting that 2nd campus point. It doesn't meet the threshold for 2. There are still 1 campus point available, and so we needed to eliminate candidates again into another round. As reopened nominations did receive votes, they were eliminated first, their votes redistributed, but that didn't mean that anyone met the threshold for an additional campus point. So we eliminated again, and this time we eliminated Harshit again, and his votes were redistributed across Dylan and Quadri. As we can see, Quadri meets the threshold for 2 campus points. Dylan ends up getting 4 as the final remaining points because of the way the votes are reallocated. So we see 7 points across the 3 candidates, 4 for Dylan, 2 for Quadri, and 1 for Harshit. Trying to read notes and speak. Apologies. As you can see, things have started to tighten up here. We see Dylan in the lead now with 6 after 2 campuses counted. Quadri second on 5, and Harshit still in the race with 2. Paul Ron, not quite got a vote yet. Good luck, Ron. Let's see how you get on. Okay, so then the next campus is Milton Keynes. We had 3 points available at Milton Keynes, and in the first round of voting, Dylan and Quadri both got a campus point. The threshold for a campus point was 8.67 in the first round. Bear in mind that threshold does change. It essentially gets lower every time a candidate is eliminated because fewer votes are in the process. Because there was still a campus point available and neither Harshit or Ron had sufficient votes to reach another campus point, they were both eliminated in the second round, and we saw the votes reallocated. But still, that wasn't sufficient for either Quadri or Dylan to achieve another campus point. And so we eliminated Quadri as the lowest scoring candidate at this stage and redistributed so that Dylan took the final point. So if the 3 points available at Milton Keynes, Dylan gets 2 points and Quadri gets 1. As you can see, Dylan opens up a lead of 2 points here. As we finish at Bedford, 3 campuses in, still lots to play for. We're just over 2/3 of the way through. Quadri's on 6, Harsh is on 2, and poor old Ron still wishing for a campus point to make it feel better. We're next going to Birmingham, where we received 54 valid votes in this election, and the threshold was 10.8. In the first round of voting, we saw Quadri receive 2 campus points from his 30 votes. We saw Dylan achieve just above the threshold to achieve campus points as well. There are 5 points available, so still 2 campus points to be allocated. Ron did achieve some votes, as you can see, and so we redistributed Ron's votes across the remaining candidates. As you can see, all of those votes ended up going to Dylan, but Dylan did not achieve any further threshold for an additional campus point. So we had to eliminate the lowest scoring candidate again, which was Harshid. We redistributed Harshid's votes across the other candidates. As you can see, Quadri just reached the threshold. Oh no, it's got that wrong. So as you can see, those votes meant that we ended up with an additional campus. No, I've got ahead of myself, so I'm struggling to read both screens together. Basically, no one reached the threshold again, so we had to redistribute the lowest scoring candidate, which was Dylan, which meant that Quadri got the final campus point from the Birmingham campus. Sorry for messing that up a little bit, but hopefully you watched the slides instead of me. So as you can see, at the end of that round, Quadri takes 4 campus points from Birmingham, and Dylan takes 1. Of course, you keep your campus points, but Quadri gets that final one that was available. Well done, everyone. That starts to make things interesting. Quadri is now picked into the lead, come from behind, but close behind is Dylan, and still in the race is Harshid. There's lots to play for. We haven't got to Luton yet, so we're whopping 15 points there. We know it means a lot. But first, let's go to Aylesbury. There are 2 points available at Aylesbury. In the first round of voting, from 17 votes, the threshold was 8.5 votes, so that Quadri exceeded the threshold to get a single vote. As you can see, if you added up these 2 bar charts, that wouldn't be sufficient to reach the first, threshold for 1 campus point. So in the next round, we eliminated both both Harshid and Dylan, and reallocated both the votes to Quadri. So Quadri achieved 2 points available for the Aylesbury campus. And I think that means Quadri does open up a bit of a lead in the election. So I think we have 2 more campuses to go. And next, we have the specialist sites. There were 2 campus points available in specialist sites. There were 5 valid votes, and the threshold for a campus point is 2.5. Bit of a close election this one. In the first round, we saw Ron get two votes, Dylan 2, Quadri 1, Hardish 0. Therefore, we eliminated 2 of the lowest scoring candidates in the first round, into the second stage of voting. So we eliminated Harshid and Quadri and reallocated their votes. And in which case, finally, Ron gets on the board and gets a campus point, and Dylan takes a single campus point from the specialist sites too. So the 2 points are shared between Dylan and Ron. Congratulations, Ron, for getting on the board. Penultimate campus vote, and we get there. And a bit more colour there. And it's made things a little bit more interesting into the final round. Because of course, we're now moving to Luton, the largest of the campuses, the final campus selection, and it's come, I think, to the final campus. Now, we received 717 votes at Luton. The threshold for a single campus point was 47.8. In the first round of voting, we saw that Harshid received 288 votes and was allocated 6 campus points. Quadri, close behind on 282 votes, received 5 campus points, just shy of the threshold for a 6th. Dylan received 134 votes and exceeded 2 campus points, again, just shy of getting 3 campus points. Ron did get some votes, but not enough to get a campus point. we still have points available. So we'd seen 13 points allocated, there were 2 points to go, and so we redistributed, we eliminated Ron and added that to the candidates. However, it did not mean that any candidate received any additional campus points because there weren't any votes to reallocate. So we had to eliminate the lowest scoring candidate, which was Dylan. We eliminated Dylan's votes and reallocated. We saw that additional campus points each were added, 2 campus points were added to Quadri. So he exceeded the threshold of getting 7 campus points just, and Harshid received another campus point to get 6. And so the final tally was Quadri with 7 campus points, Harshid with 6 campus points, Dylan with 2 campus points on the Luton campus. I think we might have some slides. Here we go. And as you can see, that was the final campus. That's the end of the vote. You see, congratulations to Quadri Yusuf. Non-binary individual for the 22-23 year. Congratulations, Quadri. Commiserations to Harshid and Dylan. Well done for championing students' voices in your campaigns and running it to the wire as well. It's great to see contested elections engage students so well. Thanks for taking part. And again, big congratulations to Quadri, who I gather is watching back at home. Well, 3 down. We have 3 execs so far. We have Quadri, we have Tabitha, we have Ryan for our 22-23 year. The final position we are counting for is the co-president self-identifying woman. Hey! Hey! You can tell at the end of me chatting. Still excited though. We've got a lot of candidates in this position, so it's the final position we're counting tonight. So let's have a look at the candidates standing in this election. So we had 6 candidates, of which of course Ron is one. We had Laura Tamara, Navia Makala, Abhisha Patel, Tanika Powell, and Uma Madani, and of course we opened nominations for Ron as a candidate in this election as well. Good luck to all the candidates for this final position. And I think we're starting off at the London Bridge campus, where we received 42 votes in the first round of voting, and the votes were allocated as follows. We see here that Laura takes the lead in the first round of voting at London Bridge and meets the threshold for 2 campus points. Uma achieves the threshold for 1 campus point, but not quite 2. 4 campus points were allocated in the first round of voting, 2 to Laura, 1 to Tanika, and 1 to Uma. Across the other candidates, there was insufficient votes to reallocate and to be able to achieve a campus point. And so all of the, sorry, I think it's right. And so Ron and Navia and Purvisha were all eliminated in the next round of voting, to leave Tanika, Uma, and Laura still in the race. After votes were reallocated, Uma received sufficient additional votes to achieve an extra campus point. So Uma gets 2 campus points to be level with Laura. In the third round of voting, we eliminated the lowest scoring candidate, Tanika, and saw those votes reallocated. Now, as the threshold was then met by Laura for 3 votes, 3 campus points, you'll see that the threshold does change, it gets shorter, which is why Laura is now shown as having 3 campus points. Laura takes the final campus point available at London Bridge to make it 3 for Laura, 1 for Tanika, and 2 for Uma. Well done, everyone. So the scoreboard starts with Laura in the lead on 3, Uma close behind, 2, followed closely by Tanika. Still a good lot of campus points to go. Next, we're coming to Luton. We had 636 ballot votes at Luton. And the points were allocated as follows. In the first round of the voting, having got 215 votes, Laura receives 5 campus points, and Uma receives 4 with 206 votes, taking a clear lead in the election here. Campus points were still allocated because we had a decent threshold, and we still saw votes distributed across Navia, Tanaka, and Berkshire, as well as Ron getting votes as well, but not sufficient for a campus point. So we saw 5 points for 4 to 2 to Navia, 1 to Tanaka, and 1 to Berkshire in the first round. There were still 2 campus points available, so we needed to eliminate candidates. We eliminated Ron in the first round of voting, and no additional campus points were achieved by the candidates. And so we moved to the third round of voting, where we eliminated the lowest scoring candidate, who was Pavisha. We redistributed Pavisha's votes, which saw Uma receive additional votes and sufficient to gain an additional campus point, and moved up to 5 campus points level with Laura. However, there was still a single campus point available, so we needed to redistribute and eliminate the lowest scoring candidate. So we eliminated Tanaka with the lowest number of votes that were reallocated. We then saw 25 votes added to Laura, which saw her reach the next threshold for a 6th campus point, which means Laura takes the bulk of the campus points for Luton. Congratulations, Laura. Well done, and Nadia, for staying in the race and getting a good number of points too. We see here that with 9 campus points from Luton, Laura extends a bit of a lead. 9 campus points overall, having got 6 at Luton, Laura extends the lead. Uma, not far behind, on 7, and Tanaka and Navia on 2, with Pavisha on 1. The next selection is at the specialist sites. There were 2 points available. There were 4 valid votes, so the threshold for a single campus point was 2 votes in the first round. We saw that the only candidate to achieve that threshold was Laura. As the only other votes went to Tanaka, we had to eliminate Tanaka in the second round. And obviously that meant that both points at the specialist sites went to Laura. Congratulations, Laura, for taking the points home at the specialist sites. That extends Laura's lead to 11. See Uma still on 7, Tanaka 2, Navia 2, and Pavisha 1, with Ron still waiting to get on the board. The next campus we're moving to is Birmingham, where we had 51 valid votes in the first round, which were distributed as so. We saw 22 votes for Laura, which meant that she met the threshold for 2 campus points. The threshold was just over 10 votes. So Laura receives 2 campus points, and Uma receives 1 campus point. There were 5 points available and only 3 points allocated in the first round of voting, and so we eliminated candidates and redistributed. We eliminated the lowest scoring candidates, but because the existing candidates who'd had votes, Navia, Pavisha, and Ron, well, Ron didn't get any votes, wouldn't have had sufficient additional votes in the next round. Both were eliminated at the same time. We saw their votes reallocated. However, we still didn't see any of the candidates achieve the threshold for more votes, for more campus points, sorry. And so we needed to eliminate it again. So in the next round of voting, we eliminated Tanaka. Tanaka's votes were redistributed. That's not correct, is it? I think we eliminated Navia, because I'm reading it wrong. We eliminated Navia, and they were redistributed. We still didn't see the campus points added, so we had to go to another round of voting and then see that Tanaka's votes were redistributed. And then we finally saw that an additional campus point was added. And of course, you can see here that Laura met the threshold to have an additional campus point, but there was still 1 point available. We had 3 points with Laura, 1 point with Uma. Whilst being close to getting the threshold of 2 points, being the candidate with the lowest number of votes in the final round of voting, Uma's votes were redistributed, and that final point obviously went to the candidate with the most votes, which was Laura. So Laura received 4 campus points from Birmingham out of the 5 available. Well done enough for gaining points as well and staying in the race. As you can see, it is still possible. Laura has opened up a sizable lead here, but it is still possible for Uma to make some ground back. Let's see how things go. The next campus that we're counting is Aylesbury. There were 2 points available, 17 votes, and as you can see, it was a bit of a landslide for Laura down at Aylesbury. Well done, Laura. You've taken one of the 2 points in the first round. As you might expect, because the 2 campus points weren't allocated in the first round of voting, we had to eliminate candidates with the lowest votes. The only candidate with votes was Navia, so we eliminated Navia, and that brought all the votes home to Laura. That Laura then met the threshold for a second campus point. So Laura takes both campus points at Aylesbury and increases her tally in the standings. We have 2 more campuses to go, and as you can see, quite a sizable lead there. Laura on 17, Uma on 8, Tanika 2, Navia 2, Pavisha 1, and Ron still holding out for a point to take home. The next campus we're at is Milton Keynes, our penultimate campus in this election. There are 3 points available. In the first round, we received 26 votes. The threshold for a point was 80.67 votes. Laura met the threshold for a single campus point, was the only candidate who did that in the first round. Therefore, we did move to a second round of voting to reallocate the other 2 campus points available. We redistributed votes from Pavisha, Tanika, Uma, and Ron, and they went to both Laura and Navia. Unfortunately, Navia did not reach the threshold in that second round, but Laura did for a second campus point. There was still 1 point available, but of course only 2 candidates left. Navia with the lowest number of votes out of the 2 candidates was eliminated in the final round to award the final points to Laura as the majority candidate. So Laura also takes full points from Milton Keynes as well. Now we are at the final round of voting, and of course Laura has reached 20 points, which means it is not possible for any other candidate to win this election. Congratulations, Laura. We're still going to continue to the end, but obviously it'll be very clear to you at home that you have won the election. And commiserations to all of the other candidates who worked really, really hard to compete with Laura in this election and take part and be there. So well done for standing up for students, all of you. In particular, well done to Laura for taking the campus points home for this election and being the 22-23 co-president, self-identifying for BEDZSU. So we'll go to the final campus, which is Bedford. There were 71 votes at Bedford and 7 points available. In the first round of voting proceedings, a threshold of 10 points, over 30 votes were met by Laura, which meant she got 3 points in the first round. But Tanika and Uma also got a campus point, having reached the threshold too, and Navia not far off the campus point as well. There were still more points to play for, and so we started to eliminate candidates. We eliminated Ron, Pavisha, we saw points reallocated, but no additional campus points were awarded. So the standings are still 3 for Laura, 1 for Tanika, and 1 for Uma. We then eliminated Navia as the lowest scoring candidate, but again, we didn't see any candidate reach the threshold for an additional vote, for additional campus points, sorry. So we had to eliminate, again, the lowest scoring candidate. So Uma was eliminated in the final stage of voting to see 2 votes then allocated, 1 to Tanika, 2 campus points allocated, 1 to Tanika, 1 to Laura, meaning the final standings were 7 points available, 4 went to Laura, 2 to Tanika, and 1 to Uma. So let's see the final standings. We see that Laura has a whopping 24 campus points in a highly contested election. Uma has 9, Tanika has 4, Navia 2, Pavisha 1, and Ron didn't manage to get off the board. A massive congratulations to everyone, but really well done to Laura Tamara, duly elected co-president self-identifying women at BEDZSU for the 2023 year. Thank you very much. So, just to summarise, our elected officer team for the 22-23 year is Laura Tamara, Roger Yusuf, Tabitha Joe, and Ryan Murphy. And as your compact usually, thanks for listening to me talk through a lot of results. And I look forward to working with the elected officer team next year. Always a pleasure. And welcome you into your roles at BEDZSU. Really well done. I look forward to seeing what change you can bring on behalf of the students. So final note, I want to do a really big shout out to everyone who's worked really hard during this election, particularly the Students' Union staff who work for students. They work for you, on your behalf. They take direction and leadership from students, from student consultation, from course or executive officers who are in post. Thank you for working so hard to run, a smooth, well-run election that reached a lot of students. It was fair, it was transparent, it was accessible as we thought it could be. So really well done, and a big thank you to everyone. So round of applause for everyone behind the scenes. And so that's the end of the night. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for coming by, everybody. Yes, enjoy celebrating or take heart in commiserating. But well done to everybody for taking part. It truly means a lot to the student body that students are willing to stand up for each other and represent them. So thanks for coming along. Okay, good night, everybody.